Dun, 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 dun. It's Friday night. Feels like any other night. Remember the days when Friday night was like something big? And now it isn't. Apparently, some of the music we played last night was not okay to be playing. So, you know, that's why I try not to mix it up when I do the music. Hi, Diane. Mix it up when I do music with something else because usually it's like if the whole video, and it didn't even tell me which one wasn't okay. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I was watching. Well, there really wasn't too much on. Was anything on tonight? Like anybody have any live streams or anything, or what? I was watching actually some of those YouTube channels, the 911 calls. You ever watch any of those, Diane? With the 911 calls with the backstories? Man, it's incredible, some of this stuff. This one guy, I mean, for 30 years, 30 years, like in between, all that they know of was 30 years, like in between the time that he had done one particular death and then another one that he, was 30 years. Can you imagine how confident, hi, hi Peep Show Paul, how confident must that killer have gotten that after 30 years, okay, that after 30 years, this guy was still confident enough to be, you know, I can't even imagine how many times he must have killed and not been caught. I just can't even imagine. The guy was from Michigan. Thank you, Diane. The guy was from Michigan, and maybe I can get Bobby Ramos to see if she wants to come up and talk about it. Thank you. There's a lot of shit going on in Michigan, let me tell you. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with this shit? I don't even know if that's fucking Terry doing that. Somebody though. Hey Bobby, I just texted you the link to come up. Like whoever that is like so fucking pathetic, man. It's up to you. Are you busy? Tandra was at the graduation, I know that. Hi Debbie. You think so? Then he's fast. Faster than I don't know if he would be that. Oh, if anybody no, well probably doesn't know, but when I had to get a new one, oh okay. When I had to get a new phone, I lost a lot of people's numbers. So if anybody has, I know, right? Like get a hold of me. Text me your number again. People that I've had your number. And hey, paranormal, how you doing? I'm so shocked though about this one case I really want to look into. This serial killer in Michigan, or was in Michigan. Just so shocked at how long he got away with it. I mean, my God, he could have been the guy that was taking the little kids at that one point. Remember, like what was it in Polk County or whatever? It's so shocking to me. Okay. I have Jax's, I have Bobby's. But I had lost Bobby's, and when she texted me one morning, I was like, who is this? Who? Who? Yeah, this fucking guy. I mean, for 30 years as they know of. They know of. I mean, my God. Can you imagine? There should be no reason why people are getting away with murder anymore. There should be. There should not be. There should not be. Mm-mm-mm. Jeffrey Willis is his name. I want to take a look into him. I'm gonna try to get to it. Aw. Hi, Nat Nat. Really, Nat Nat. Interesting. Just couldn't believe it. Oh my God, how many women, Nat Nat? Oh, come on, Roscoe. Can you move so I can put this computer down? How many women were going missing in that neighborhood? Nat Nat. I just am in complete and utter shock. Bobby, had you ever heard of him? Jeffrey Willis? Because Bobby's good with serial killers. I'm telling you, have you ever heard of him, Bobby? Couldn't believe it. Was there like a bunch of is that before or after? Like, were there just a bunch of like a bunch, not just, but were there a bunch of missing women in your neighbor? Like, oh my God. I mean, I am in shock. I can't imagine how many. Really, Nat Nat, you want to come up? I can send the back chatter person. Never heard of him, Bobby Ramos. Woo! Found one. Found one she's never heard of. Unbelievable. Can't believe this guy went for 30 years, if not more, with a van that they know of. Two women that they know of. Two women that they know of, but in between. Oh my God, I'm just in shock. Yeah, but I mean, I wonder if they didn't even try him for a bunch of other ones that he probably had something to do with. Let me see. Oh, there's gotta be more. Gotta be more. Disclaimer. I do not own the rights to this audio. Okay. Let me just find where it is. Maybe he's got it listed. There's gotta be. I mean, this guy had like a whole torture thing in there in his van. Since I'm playing this part anyway, well, let's just see. Hold on. I'm not sure which one it is. Let's see. I don't think it's the first one. Ah, no, I don't want to do that. Hi, Mr. Tim. Yeah, the 16-year-old escaped and was able to describe the van.
Nathaniel Anderson and Francie Graham were anti-Semites who also mistrusted the police.
Nope, this isn't the one.
They were both interested in the Black Hebrew. At 18 years old, Noah Domingo was a student at the University of California. In January of 2019, he was on track to be part of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. So he found 19-year-old student Gianna Delgado was a student at High Point University in North
This one kills me too. I mean, they don't even act like they care about the fucking
Carolina.
thing.
She was
Yeah.
living in an apartment complex. George Taylor III was the COO of True Colors Brewing Company. George's father founded the company back in 2017. One of the company's missions was to Dave Rogers and Meryl Rogers adopted their son Cameron Rogers in 1994. They had married back in 1982 and were eager to start a family together. When they adopted Cameron, he was just a baby. As Cameron grew up, he was finding it difficult to focus.
I'm trying to find it.
They even restricted him from getting a job and promised to cater to his every need. They wanted him to allocate his time and energy towards his studies. This led to several arguments between Cameron, who wanted more freedom to live his life, and his parents, who felt they were doing what was best for him. Then one morning, things turned tragic. Cameron had had enough, and he started.
Finally, y'all, I am in therapy. I've always heard people say that going to therapy was the best thing that they've ever done. And I'm like, how?
Okay, and do you know if he came in a vehicle or? I don't know, but I don't know.
Trying to find it.
What followed next was tragic. Marvin barged into Fanny's home with a gun and opened fire on her and her new boyfriend. Fanny's daughter-in-law ran away the second she saw Marvin with the gun.
Saw that one.
Decided to lift the restraining order against her. Lee says he agreed with the judge, claiming that Deborah had shown no resentment towards her children, nor had she ever.
Hello? Hello? Tell me what's going on. Don't talk to the other people. Talk to me. My sister has, she's hurt her child. Seriously, hurt her child. No, you need to stay on the phone with me, okay? Just wait until we get there. Lay the knife down so they can see that you don't have any weapons. Okay. They're hurrying, honey. They're hurrying.
25-year-old Beatriz Centora Silva breaks up with 31-year-old Daniel Sanchez on Thanksgiving 2012 after a physical fight. December 15th, 2012. Daniel and his ex-girlfriend Beatriz meet up to talk about Daniel paying her back for a loan she'd given him. That ends up in a physical fight and the police...
Nothing, I'm just playing 911s, but I'm going to look up Jeffrey Willis.
With Beatriz saying that she was also being held against her will. The following day, on December 16th, 2012, Daniel is arrested. December 17th, 2012. At 10 p.m. the day after being arrested, Daniel is released on bond and Beatriz is notified of his release. She is offered additional police protection, which she...
Terrible, once again, huh? Okay, bye, paranormal.
declines. The police advised her to go stay somewhere else since he knows where she is staying. She decides to stay where she is, at her sister and brother-in-law's house. December 18th, 2012. 6 hours after his release, at 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
and Daniel shoots out the locks on the back door and enters the property.
What's the address of the emergency? 11-464.
This is the girl calling.
I need you to say the address. I can't understand you. 11-464. Okay, repeat the address one more time to make sure I have it right. No.
When they got rid of landlines and they just went to cell phones, That's what ended up happening. They couldn't trace where people were.
Hello?
Killed her.
Hello?
Okay, this is 911. What's going on?
I just shot everybody right now.
You just shot everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that sick? They let him out and advised her to go stay somewhere else. That tells me they must have known, got a feeling from him.
Okay, what is your name?
Daniel Sanchez?
Pablo Sanchez?
Yeah.
Okay, how many people did you shoot?
Pablo Sanchez.
3.
You shot
It's
who-
Daniel
who did you
Sanchez.
shoot?
My ex-girlfriend, because she was cheating on me, she was Roy.
Okay.
And myself, I'm going to shoot myself right now.
Pablo, I need you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Just wait until we get there. Pablo?
Yeah.
Okay, just stay with me, okay? Don't shoot yourself,
Okay.
okay?
He's
Tell me
gonna
exactly
shoot
what happened.
himself.
Like 6 months ago, I called my girlfriend to cheat on me, and I told Roy to stop talking.
Isn't that crazy? Like, why did he shoot her and not the guy she's cheating on him with?
Okay.
He wouldn't do it. He got charges on me kidnapping. I'm not violent, but I'm going to sue himself.
She pressed charges on you for kidnapping? Okay.
Yeah, for my girlfriend, she was, she didn't know what she was doing.
Okay, who else was there?
What do you mean?
Who else was there with you tonight?
What
The other 2 people, do you know who they were?
her sister and her husband.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
There's like a tour bus driving down the street, and it's a residential neighborhood in the picture.
How did you get there? You drove there?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you there by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
She keeps calling him Pablo. His name's
Okay, what
Daniel.
room are you in right now? Pablo?
It's Daniel.
Pablo? Hello? I think you just shot himself.
I know, Bobby.
Daniel Sanchez shot and killed his ex-girlfriend Beatriz Santora Silva, who had been staying with her sister and brother-in-law at their home. Daniel also shot and killed the couple, Maria Santora Silva, age 22, and Max Aguero Jada, age 32, before turning the gun on himself and pulling the trigger. A neighbor heard the sounds of what she thought was a cat in her trash can. After moving several bags, she spotted a baby.
Yeah, but that wasn't the Jeffrey Willis one, but this fine anyway. Well, they saw your feet today.
Do you like being a shared workspace for up to 5,000 fleas? If you like being protected from fleas and ticks with Nexstar, take a nap. I think I can hear the ticks feeding. That sucks. Start killing in minutes.
Okay, this is the 911 call from the couple. Okay?
The corner of Riley Thompson and Automobile. It's on Automobile Road. We come up to this lady. She's laying in the road. I think she was hit by a car.
Okay.
She got a head injury.
Okay, so I'm at Riley Thompson and Automobile.
Hi, Teach TV. What we're doing right now is I'm playing a 911 call from a couple that came across this woman that had been like abducted jogging in Michigan. I think it was what, in 2016 or something. And his name's Jeffrey Willis, but he'd been killing people for 30 years that they know of. And they're trying to say only 2 people. I don't believe that for a second.
Okay, which way from?
4300 Automobile Road.
4300 Automobile. Okay, stay on the phone here with me, okay? I'm going to get some help right out there for you. Did you see what happened to her?
She had the phone. We just came up on her.
Is she unconscious?
Yes, she is.
Okay, you stay on the phone with me. Is she breathing?
She is breathing. She has a pulse.
Okay, did you see who hit her? Does she have obvious injuries?
She has a head injury.
Okay.
She's got a head injury.
This is Rebecca Bletch on the side of the road is the girl.
Down.
Okay, don't move
Hi,
her around,
Buns.
okay?
We're not moving her around.
Okay. Is she by herself?
She needs to hurry. She's all by herself.
Okay.
It's really irregular. My wife is a nurse.
Okay, sir, I got help that's going to start on that help, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Mark Flynn.
Okay, Mark. Someone else here starting some help. I'm going to update them about what's going on, okay?
Okay. I don't know what to do.
Okay, sir. Mark, what's your phone number? Okay.
You need to hurry.
Okay, sir, they're on the way already, okay? Did anybody see anything?
What else? I don't know what else to do.
Okay, sir. Just tell me if she's... Okay.
I'll bet you any money, Nat. I'll bet you any money, Nat. It was him. Any money.
Okay. We call?
She has not been moved, but she's halfway in the road.
Okay.
I mean, there's no way he only killed 2 people. There's no way. And he looks so clean cut and shit, too. Oh, my God, man. Wow, Nat. Oh, my God.
Okay. What kind of car are you in?
I am in Toyota Camry, Burgundy. I'm right in the middle of the road. Nobody's going to get by me.
Okay. Get your flashes on. See your flashes on?
Yes.
Okay. Ask your wife if she thinks she needs CPR.
Does she need CPR, Michelle? Does she need CPR? She's still breathing. Okay. She has a pulse.
Okay. Tell your wife that if she needs CPR, I can help her with that, and I will stay on the phone with you. The fire department and the ambulance are on the way.
Okay. No, Michelle, just
Have you guys ever heard this before?
If she's got a pulse, she's fine.
Okay. I need to know if she's breathing normally. If she's
Breathing normally, Michelle. She is not breathing normally.
Okay. We want to start CPR then. Tell her to go ahead and start with CPR.
She's on her chest, and Michelle would have to turn her over.
Okay. What we can do then is we can move her over, but I want her to be real carefully when she turns her over. I want you to...
One of the bodies that he did, Nat, or just like a body of one, like...
Stabilize her head or not her head?
Stabilize her head. You know what? There's another car coming. Maybe I can get them. She's a bigger.
Okay.
But they don't stop. The other car.
They're on the way, Michelle. They're on the way.
Okay. I can help her with it.
She's just a little paranoid to move her.
Okay. I understand. Okay. If she doesn't want to move her, that's fine. But if she's not breathing normally, then we're not going to hurt her anymore.
I don't know if we should move her.
Wow, Nat. See, that's what they do. They call all of them that, and they don't look into people as missing children. You know, and I know even if somebody's in their 20s, they're still their child. Their 30s or 40s, it doesn't matter.
She's got a pulse still.
Okay. Tell her to use her best discretion if she's a nurse.
Michelle, use your best discretion. What you should do. She's got a really bad head injury.
She's bleeding from her head?
Yeah, she's bleeding quite a bit from her head.
You see anything around her that would...
She's got blood coming from her ears. That would be her right ear.
Okay. All right, I'm going to step with the supervisor here real quick, okay?
Okay.
Okay. What I want her to do is I want her to turn her over. We're going to do CPR. We're not going to hurt her anymore. She's got that head injury and she's not breathing normally.
Okay, I'm going to put you on voice if you can hear.
Okay.
Oh, I know. But you know, the thing is, Teach TV, it could be the same person, you know? I mean, Michigan and Long Island, over 30 years, people could drive that far, you know? I mean, like long distance drivers, even, or I mean, anybody. I can't imagine the confidence that must be gained by somebody when they've been getting away for something with something for so long.
Okay.
Oh, they really did, Buns? They cut her finger off practically? They cut Maddie's finger off? Her thumb? Wow. They did? She should have stayed in.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. We got to start CPR.
Wow, they should have stayed in. She should have stayed in there and got clean. I mean, she should have made that loss a gain. Really, she should have. The top bone to the knuckle.
If she's not breathing normally, I want you to go ahead and start. We're not going to hurt her anymore. Oh. Can you do that for me?
There's blood all over the
I can stay on the phone
woman.
and help you through it.
Okay. You just gotta come over here, Mark, and take her hips and her shoulders, and I will hold her head. That's what I can. Okay.
Ugh. Police picked her up again? What do you mean? The police picked her up? What are you saying? I don't understand what happened. The police picked her up? What do you mean? Where are her parents? Where's her parents? There's gotta be a parent that gives a shit, man. Even, I mean, come on. Even the person who she has the kids with. Oh, her thumb was already missing? I don't get it.
Okay, Michelle,
Oh. Right, T? She should have taken this opportunity to stay there in a nice, clean fucking hospital. I mean, obviously, she wants. Does anybody talk to her on the phone? I mean, somebody needs to get a hold. I mean, her father. Doesn't her father care? I mean, I would.
Jonica, once you get over, I want you to look at her mouth and see it. 1, 2, 3.
I know, but if I was her parent, I'd grab her and I'd have her kidnapped and brought to me. I'd kidnap her myself. I'd fucking what is it? Something appeal to the court that she wasn't able to take care of herself, and I'd take over. I'd take over. I'd use all of what's on YouTube as evidence and what just happened and say she can't make her own decisions, and I would take over. And I would be the one that, you know, I bet you knowing that phone's being used is the only way he knows she's still alive. But you don't know that. I would too, Buns. I would too. If that was my kid. I watched a video the other day where the daughter, she was 18 and she was going to be going off to college and stuff. Beautiful girl, right? And she was in a bad breakup. So she ends up at her cousin's house or whatever. And, yeah, I had to buy one that day. Right, if I was her parent. But anyway, so the girl, right? She was, the mother said she came in and the girl was sitting in a chair, with her legs thrown over the arm and just texting like any normal teenager. And was like, "So you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, normal." Then she goes inside and the girl isn't on the couch, on the chair anymore. And what do you mean you're all set? What's going on? I don't know what are you talking about? You're all set. Oh, you mean for the phone number thing? Yes, absolutely. I've had your number for many years, so it just transferred with it all. Yeah. Anybody whose number I've had for years transferred with it, or for a long time, and I've had yours for years. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. No, 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 you didn't. So anyhow, the next thing, they're looking around for the girl, the 18-year-old girl, and they hear a gun, boom. She had shot herself in the face in the bathroom, but she survived. Okay. But it split her face right in half. So they did a face transplant, but it was from a 20-year-old girl that, had died from an overdose. And man, I'll bet you that girl, like, she probably thinks to herself, man, I'd be so over that guy by now. But her family, they love her and everything, but it's so weird that they have to get used to this whole different face on her, and she's trying to learn how to talk and stuff. But man, just parents will do whatever it takes to keep their child. They should anyway. They were just happy that she was still alive. It's hard on all of them, but it's, God, just to keep your kid alive. I'd give my arms, I'd give my legs, I'd give everything. Becoming a parent is letting your heart walk around unprotected outside of your body. It's the most selfless thing in the world.
Okay, is she getting any air? Is she breathing? Okay, is CPR gonna help?
I'm gonna open her airway. I'm doing a jaw thrust on her.
Okay, you're doing a great job, Michelle.
She's not breathing, no.
Okay, I want you to start with CPR. Okay, do you remember how to do it?
I remember how to do it. My husband's gonna have to hold her.
I got her.
Okay, you guys are doing great.
Just grab her behind here.
Okay.
Hold tight. Just hold her tight and go get your airway open and her head steady.
I'm here for you if you need any.
Thank you, Tish. Thank you. I wonder if this woman, this Rebecca Beats, whatever, you know, the one who Jeffrey Willis had killed. I wonder if the 911 operator that had her flip her over and move her, she had a pulse before she moved her. I wonder if moving her, right, Jax? I wonder if moving her might have harmed her.
Anything from me?
Stay there, Charlie.
Michelle, make sure you get 50 breaths in her.
Yep. I can't. She's got blood all over her face.
Okay.
I don't have anything to.
Okay, you can just do chest compressions.
Rebecca? Tina? I was in shock when I found out about Jeffrey Willis. Just out jogging. A guy who got away for 30 years. Tina, that's incredible. That is so incredible. Were you old enough to remember, like, you know?
You don't have to put your arm up. Just go with the chest compressions. You guys can take turns if you need to.
He lived close by. Net. He probably lived near you. Net. Oh my God. Imagine. Oh, you're not modded though. What's it called? Net.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. You're not going to hurt her if she's not breathing. Just go ahead and do chest compressions. Let's get that blood to her.
Where is somebody?
They're on the way. 2300 automobile, right? You're going to hear sirens real shortly.
4300 Automobile. Is that the name of the street? Yes, I'm very sorry for everyone who's ever lost a child. See, in the first one, they connected him to that. Well, they say she had a pulse in the beginning here. It was a nurse and her husband who stopped.
Okay, you're going to hear sirens real shortly. They're driving there. Is somebody else stopped now?
I don't think that she was shot. Was she shot? Was she shot? I'm not sure. Oh, it's a back road.
Okay. You guys are doing great. I know it seems like it's taken a very long time. They're driving there as fast as they can. You guys are
But
doing
the
great.
first girl, he took within 15 minutes from a convenience store. Oh, she was shot. Oh, yeah. Wow.
You can take over phone if you need to, okay?
Oh my gosh, who could do this?
You're doing great, Michelle.
And that's another thing too. This guy's shooting people. Like, not even like quietly killing people. He's torturing them, shooting them, throwing them out in the middle. I mean, at some point, probably some DNA. And that was 2016.
No, but who can have a woman and just leave her?
Okay.
We're starting to hear some
Yeah, those are for you. I know this is hard. You're doing great.
Oh, I bet, Tina. Oh my. What is the area? Can you tell me what is the county?
Supposed to get it just a little longer, okay?
Net says they had billboards up with missing people. It makes you feel sick
Mark, you can
knowing
help her, okay?
that for 30 years for 30 years.
Okay.
You know, and I bet you he probably had something to do with those little kids that were going missing. Oh, hearing over Jeffrey Willis. Okay, I'll play that.
Okay.
Yes, better training, exactly. But they do need to repeal the qualified immunity doctrine. They have got to repeal the qualified immunity doctrine.
Okay, you hear the siren? I want you to keep doing the chest compression so someone takes over for you.
No, 30 years. 30 years. Oh, that they proved. Well, let's see. I'm not sure. But I know that the first one started with this one in a convenience store.
Keep doing it till he gets there, okay? He's gonna get some stuff out. He's gonna be right there for you.
No, stop kicking her.
Keep it going. Okay, thank you.
This call has been 8 minutes so far.
Okay. Mark? Yeah. Mark, your phone number?
No, they do not. Mm-mm-mm.
Okay, you guys did a great job. I'm gonna let you go and have him take over for you. All right, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
It takes a lot of courage to admit that you
Is that where you are, Cheese TV?
could actually all use a little help and guidance sometimes to get our minds to a good.
If you are, you should move. But at least he's arrested, but there's loads of them.
In particular, when you called out, come out with your primary partners on Mason. Now,
I think they should. I think they should. Oh, in Long Island, yeah. They've been doing that for a long time.
your responsibility to recall searching the yes, I did. Yes, I did. All right. I'm going to show you.
Let's see, there was a missing girl.
More than 16 hours of testimony was given by 30 witnesses over 4 days in the courtroom of Raymond Kostrawa in Muskegon County during Jeffrey Thomas Willis's preliminary exam for the alleged murder and kidnapping of Jessica Herringa in the spring of 2013. Willis is represented by attorney Brian Hostica. Each witness called shed light and added a piece to the extensive puzzle around the disappearance of Jessica in the eyes of Muskegon County prosecutor DJ Hilson. Susan Mosley purchased a lighter from Jessica at the Exxon gas station at 10:50.
You know what? The guy who does the 911 with the backstories that I was watching said 30 years. Somebody must have given him wrong information, or they put a 0 after the 3.
To 2 p.m. Craig Harpster arrived at the gas station around 11:07 p.m., finding the station empty and calling 911.
There was nobody at the station at all. We went inside, okay, is anybody here? Nobody responded, and they proceeded to
Now I wonder if that's an all-night station, cause bye Tina. I wonder if that's an all-night gas station, because if it's an all-night gas station, don't usually the person who's like gonna relieve somebody, um, aren't they usually there by by 11? And another thing that always kills me is these like they said that there was on the I could torture them. It doesn't have to be just him a little bit of pain every day. What? Oh, you're talking about the serial killer. Oh. So this guy was younger, so he couldn't have been doing this for 30 years. That guy gave the wrong information, probably by accident.
The wrong foot. Eric Barber and Susan Follett said they saw a silver minivan parked behind the station and that they saw movement behind the van. They then saw the van driving away and turning north onto Old Grand Haven Road at 11:04 p.m. This was captured on camera. Jessica left behind an unlocked store, her personal belongings, and an untouched cash drawer.
It's so weird because that happened in 1992 in the town that I lived in. Yeah, let's not have that in here. I mean, can we remove that comment that you just put? Bobby, can you remove Mr. Tim's comment, or can you remove it yourself? Yeah, can we get rid of that? Let's not go crazy here. I mean, come on now. This is serious stuff here. I mean, yeah, and it makes you wonder though, like that was in 92 where the guy, it was in Lisa Ziegert, that was her name. 30 murders he did, or the one in Long Island? No, instead of wasting taxpayers' money, they should just do the death penalty and get them over with and done. That's what they need to do. Oh, it was. Can you guys hear me or not? Okay. That's it. That's not me. That's the couch, you guys.
Outside the back door, there was a sign of a struggle. Investigators found blood that matched Jessica, a 2-watch battery, and the cover to a laser sight for a Walther P20. Jessica's fiance, Dakota Quill Dyer, was questioned on their rocky relationship, drug use, and Jessica's notes in her journal contemplating running away.
See? They probably wasted so much time. So much time messing around with her boyfriend there. Oh, really? Exactly. I agree, Tish. Stop wasting the taxpayers' money and giving them that fucking last supper and shit. Give a fuck what they eat before they die. You know? The fuck should we give a fuck what they eat before they die? You know? I mean, I'm not trying to be fucking wild, but here, so they wasted all this time questioning her boyfriend here, going through her journals, instead of like tracking that evidence that they found. I mean, they couldn't track down the pieces of that gun. Obviously, if he wanted to, I mean, I find it hard to believe the guy got from the door to the van. There's security cameras, but they had no pictures of her. No pictures of him. Jeffrey Willis, who was a serial killer, and
For disappearance. You caught her. No, that was you caught her with that.
what does the fact of her using drugs have to do with what happened to her? That's irrelevant. That has no relevancy. No relevancy to this case. Isn't that awful?
The defendant.
So he was there and smashed the phone? Wow, this looks like a busy station too. But I don't see, let me look at this picture.
Admitted to knowing Jessica and frequented the Exxon station. He was there around 5 p.m. before playing cards in the nearby game. Willis purchased a silver minivan a month prior to her disappearance. Authorities interviewed and searched Willis's van on May 7, 2013. According to HR records at Herman Miller, Willis took the 25th off and that evening Brenda Nestor saw Willis at the station and then saw him leave in a silver van taking a right onto Grand Haven Road.
After I said that wait for me to be up there with her, they should say them, but he made the comment, she had a customer working out for her. He was great at it.
I wonder how often that guy was in there.
You see this app right here? It's called Audible. Using just this little app on my phone.
This one here. Hi, Cassidy. This is Lisa Ziegert. This one took place in the town that I lived in.
That's the stuff.
She was a teacher.
Those are the actual
It's a
ingredients.
shame. It was in 92. My daughter's friend's grandfather found her body.
Average siblings in an average family living a happy average life in that small town that nothing ever happens in.
Until one day, it does.
It's the day that
She got found on Mother's Day.
is who you are forever.
And exactly what happened will destroy this tight-knit community's trust
Maybe a friend of a friend of a friend who might have become fixated with her.
and leave them pointing fingers at one another.
Rumors about people who are close to us.
The truth
That's exactly what it did. That's exactly what it did. That's exactly what it did. Everybody was like, you just didn't know. I mean, you were standing like next to a serial killer. There was no murders like that in our town. None. None. It was right down the street from my house, man.
won't come easily. The prosecutors are determined to unearth the evil in their midst. We will solve this case, find the person who did this, and bring him to justice. You're looking through the eyes of a monster, doing exactly what he saw the night he entered this Agawam, Massachusetts gift shop with murder.
See, I still don't think it was the person that they eventually ended up arresting. I just don't think so. I feel like it is. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it was a trucker or something.
On his mind. But just 4 hours before he'll walk in, someone else will enter this store. Her name, Lisa Ziegert.
She was the second of our 4 children. Curly brown hair, big blue eyes, and a wonderful giggle that if you heard it, you had to laugh. The smallest. She was tiny. She was only 5'2". She was not a big person.
Now, it was a Bronco, right? It was a Bronco that took her, that they said. And a Bronco followed me home one night when I had first moved to the town, and I had long brown curly hair. Same age.
But she was big inside. It can't wear it counted.
The 24-year-old is a teacher's assistant working with special education children. It's her passion, but it doesn't pay much.
My daughter went to that school that she worked at, and they had planted like a tree in her memory, but nothing that they ever planted there ever grew. It just died.
Like many teachers,
years, Lisa gets a second job.
She started working in the gift shop. She worked there a couple of nights a week.
And on this night, as Crime Watch Daily first investigated, it's an average Wednesday for Lisa, working behind the counter at Brittany's gift shop. Her shift, which would start at 5 and usually end about 9 o'clock at night. And like clockwork, one of Lisa's regulars stops in. Is her sister, Lynn.
I went into the card store, and it was a very slow evening for her. She was talking to me about what she wanted to do with her life, how she was feeling about, being an assistant teacher.
Hi, Nida. Hi, anybody. Have I missed anybody?
And eventually takes off and leaves her sister to finish her shift.
A few people came in and out of the store. Not anything out of the ordinary.
Shortly after Lynn leaves, another customer stops by and makes a purchase. According to a receipt, timestamp 8:20 p.m. Then, not long after that, a final customer pops in right as the store is closing. 9 o'clock, this customer comes to the store. The store looks like it's still open. She comes in, she looks around. Nobody's coming to her sister, which she feels is odd because the store is open.
See? Same as that other girl. The one of Jeffrey Willis.
After looking around for a few minutes, she thinks she hears some type of a noise in the back area of the store.
She thought she heard banging. Like maybe Lisa Ziegert was kicking the wall, but they had covered her mouth.
It's not investigated.
She left. She left and didn't call anybody. She didn't call anybody. Can you imagine the guilt that must go through people's minds?
The next morning, a coworker arrives to begin her morning shift at the same gift shop. She too finds the door open, lights on, and she notices Lisa's car is still in the parking lot. But when this employee enters the store, right away she's unnerved by what she sees lying right next to the cash register. She notices Lisa's pocketbook. She knows Lisa's sets of keys still there. But eerily, Lisa is nowhere to be found. Frantic, the coworker calls 911. At the same time, Lisa's family is flooded by worried phone calls from Lisa's school, where she was in.
The path that they took, they drove right by the apartments that she lived in. She must have thought to herself, I want to go home. I just want to go home.
No show that morning.
No one is prepared for that. There's no way that you wake up in the morning or you go to bed the night before and you say, I think tomorrow is going to be a day that's going to change my life.
The Ziegert family races to the gift shop and finds it cordoned off and surrounded by police. Detectives on the scene interview Lisa's family and coworkers.
Now, I find it so hard to believe that none of those cops noticed that the lights were still on and her car was there all night. It's such a small town. I find it so hard to believe. No alarm set. You know what I'm saying?
Responsible young lady. This isn't somebody that just went out and didn't check in with friends or anything like that. They knew relatively quick that this is a missing person case.
A true nightmare. A true nightmare. You keep hoping that, of course, that, it's just a mistake and she went someplace and with someone.
But as investigators search the store, they make a chilling discovery. There's evidence at the car shop at that scene. There is evidence of a struggle. In the
Like where she would have kicked the door and like what that lady heard.
back room, as seen on this actual crime scene footage, what appears to be shoe markings on a door, and there is a small amount of blood at the scene. Right away, investigators believe Lisa Ziegert isn't only missing, she was taken. Everything indicated that she did not leave the store on her own accord. But where did this abductor take the 24-year-old school teacher?
Through the back again, though, just like that other guy. Why is the back doors open to these places? Unless he, well, no, he would have parked in the back. Man, no, I just can't. Such a small town.
Multiple law enforcement agencies joined the search for Lisa, including the Agawam Police, Massachusetts State Police, and the FBI. I mean, everybody wanted this to end well. Then on Easter Sunday, and 4 days after the school teacher went missing, police get a call from a resident indicating that he went for a walk with his dog in the woods
That was my daughter's friend's grandfather. They were walking the dog in the industrial park across the street. Across the street from their house, not across the street from where she went missing. So it wasn't Mother's Day, sorry, it was Easter.
Believes he found some human remains. They are the remains of a young woman who has been raped and stabbed. Shortly after the grisly find, a detective from the Agawam Police Department knocks on Dee Ziegler's front door.
He said, we found her. And I went, she's dead, isn't she? And he had tears in his eyes. And I don't remember. I remember kind of going to my knees. The worst day of my life.
Coming up,
There's nothing that prepares you for that type of a scenario.
who killed Lisa Ziegler? She always felt that somebody was watching her from afar, or perhaps up close and very personal. There are rumors involving specific people. Lisa knew this offender. And can science
I still got you guys with me or what? You guys are all quiet. Can you hear this or not?
finally put a face on her killer? But detectives and even Lisa's own family take special note of the curious place where Lisa's body was discovered.
A rural area, no houses or anything like that around.
Yeah, industrial. Like a trucker would have. Maybe or something.
New Starbucks by Energy drink in 3 refreshingly fruity flavors. With 160 milligrams of caffeine naturally found in coffee fruit, it's energy.
24-year-old Massachusetts schoolteacher Lisa Ziegler is found raped and stabbed to death just 4 days after she was abducted. But who took Lisa and killed her left the small New England town of Agawam shaken to its core.
Thank you.
The crime of the decade, women being fearful, getting.
I mean, that never happens in Agawam. Never. That's where I raised my daughter. That never happens. This is in 92, mind you. Well, good. At least they're listening, right? Buns?
Because no one knew exactly what happened.
Cops on the case chase down every lead.
A lot. Hundreds of interviews.
Then investigators get a lucky break when they're able to extract the killer's DNA from the crime scene.
We had the proverbial bloody fingerprint in this case, and we just needed to get that match.
The crux of the case is attaching identity to that DNA, and we likely had an offender.
But detectives and even Lisa's own family take special note of the curious place where Lisa's body was discovered.
A rural area, no houses or anything like that around.
So strange. Hi, not your baby doll. Well, they did end up finding the guy. I mean, I didn't know of that, the DNA, stuff like that. Let's see.
It's not a visible turnoff from the main road. In fact, it's a spot that someone would have to know in order to get there.
Always thought it was somebody who's very familiar with the area, just based on where she was found.
It doesn't take long for the small town rumor mill to start spinning. And as the months pass, the talk on the streets turns into a full-fledged accusation. The finger pointing is squarely at one man.
Ed Brigatti was a friend of my sister's.
Yeah, Ed Brigatti was the police officers, you know, the police chief, like the Brigattis were always a police family. And that's who everybody kind of thought it was. Oh, thank you. Thank you, not your baby doll.
Friend or fatal foe. Ed attended high school with Lisa and even lived with Lisa's sister and boyfriend at the time she was murdered. Coincidence? Not according to the court of public opinion.
They decided for some reason that he was the person.
And there's something else. Not only were some residents claiming Ed killed Lisa, but police were covering it up.
Because Ed's dad was a member of the police department.
But there's one huge problem with this theory. Ed has a rock-solid alibi.
I was working the restaurant that night.
In a Crime Watch Daily exclusive, Ed speaks out publicly for the first time since Lisa's murder.
I was working between my office and down on the floor, and my sister was there waitressing. So I was with my family and my friends that night, and there were plenty of witnesses to verify.
Because EB's restaurant. Okay. Good night, Buns. EB's restaurant is right next to where she got taken from.
did that.
And according to police, Ed's DNA does not match the sample taken at the crime scene.
There's never anything to hide.
Ed is one of my dearest friends. Ed had nothing to do with it.
Ed is immediately cleared by police. Without a suspect in custody, vicious rumors keep swirling.
They wouldn't let it go.
My thought on the whole thing was just move ahead, just keep moving forward, and not worry about what people think. You just know it's not true, and you just continue to live your life.
And police continue with their investigation.
We just kept on getting samples from everyone that we could, and we just always hoped that at some point we would get a DNA hit.
But they don't get a hit. In fact, months, years, and even decades go by. 23 years to be exact, and there's still no DNA match.
When it first happens, I think everyone thinks, they watch the TV shows and, CSI and things like that. In an hour, everything's going to get wrapped up. The person's going to be arrested, and everybody's going to know what happened. And as time goes on, you begin to understand how reality doesn't match that.
The case appears to be cold and on the fast track to frozen. The DA, Anthony Gallooni, remembers the case. He was a young boy growing up in the area when the news first broke of Lisa's abduction and murder.
I was in my adolescence at the time. It's something that resonated and stuck with you, and in some ways haunted the town of Agawam and the people who experienced it. This case means the world to a lot of people who developed a commitment to Lisa, developed a commitment to Lisa's family, to tell them that we had the person who's responsible for their dear daughter's death.
Then just months into his administration, DA Gallooni gets wind of cutting-edge technology known as phenotyping. It's a process that takes a DNA sample and turns it into a digital composite sketch.
Today, I am releasing the snapshot composite sketches as developed by Fairbox 2 Vault. This forensic testing has predicted that these sailors have fair to very fair complexion, so freckling, hazel or brown.
Daddy looks like him.
Seeger family is front and center for the unveil.
Just saying.
Hopeful that this is going to bring for Lisa the justice that she so richly deserved.
I thought this is our chance. This is our biggest chance in probably 20 years to find the person who had killed her.
And when they look at the sketch of the man who apparently took Lisa's life,
it was very difficult when I first saw it, trying to think, do I know that person?
Daddy doesn't. He just looks like anyone.
Did I go to high school with them? Were we friends?
So cops have the killer's DNA and a composite of his face. Now they just need a name.
What's the face of the killer? It's hard to say, but his face is one. We ended up looking back at persons who had been identified for one reason or another, and then sort of cross-referencing that with people who had refused to give their DNA voluntarily.
Then prosecutors make an unprecedented move.
We went through a legal process that was devised by our team, led by myself and Captain Chris Wilcox. And through that legal process, we were attempting to compel a certain identified small list of individuals to provide their DNA.
Massachusetts State Police visit a handful of homes serving search warrants like
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
One person on the list has been on their radar since the investigation began. He refused to give his DNA at the time. The troopers knock on his door. The man is not home, but his roommate passes on the information.
Essentially a message that state troopers are looking for you.
Coming up,
we thought this was our guy, and wrote a series of notes that amounted to his confession.
Finally, a colossal crack in the case.
It was 25 years of wonder and worry and anxiety and hope all coming to a head.
But now, their number one suspect is on the run.
It was all hands on deck to get his location.
The composite narrows down their suspect, but when troopers attempt to collect DNA from their remaining persons of interest, one man appears to skip town. Massachusetts schoolteacher Lisa Ziegert has been abducted.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
For 25 years, investigators tracked down every lead and even used the latest
I'm
technology
sorry.
to create a composite sketch of her killer. The composite narrows down their suspect, but when troopers attempt to collect DNA from
Sorry to hear that.
of interest, one man appears to skip town.
At that point, put him on our radar much more significantly.
To live in hearts we leave behind is never to die. Baby doll.
Then the very next day, Massachusetts state troopers get a surprise visit.
Someone marked Big Boots Barracks and provided us with some information that was very compelling.
its potentially explosive evidence in the form of letters. And the writer, none other than the man who is currently MIA.
I read the letters, and at that moment, I called the district attorney, and we thought this might be our guy. He purportedly hand wrote a series of notes that amounted to his confession and responsibility for the killing of Lisa Ziegler.
If true, police have a confessed killer on the loose, and they have no idea what else this seemingly desperate and dangerous man is capable of.
I wonder if he's the one that they never did solve, the Ashley Cherniak. Wow. Sorry to hear that, not your baby doll. That's sad. Blessings.
Doing. Right away, cops issue an arrest warrant for their suspect and alert surrounding law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout. They also give a heads up to the Ziegler family that an arrest could be imminent.
The police really wanted to share with us, but they had to be very careful with what they shared. What we knew was this is the best lead we've had since the beginning of the investigation, and we're sorry we can't tell you more.
Hours later, the fugitive is spotted outside of Massachusetts, and police close in.
He was tracked down to Connecticut, where he had made some efforts to commit suicide.
The man is treated for a failed overdose attempt and arrested, awaiting extradition back to Massachusetts. Meanwhile,
Guy doesn't look familiar to me at all. Wow, that's sad. Oh, that's really sad. I'm sorry about that.
investigators get a search warrant and collect the suspect's DNA from items found at his home. The sample is sent out for comparison against the DNA of Lisa Ziegler's killer, and after years of waiting, it's just a matter of hours before the lab results come back.
I remember that moment very distinctly, and it was a very short email. I can remember seeing the word match underlined.
Oh, yeah. That's the stuff. No, really. Those are the actual ingredients.
I'm sorry.
Tostitos. Get to the good stuff. The next morning, the Zieglerts get a knock on their door, one for which they've been waiting a quarter of a century.
And it was the DA, Chief of Police, oh my God, head of the Detective Bureau. And they sat us down and said, we got it. We got it. And it was like a cold wash going over you, and then a flush, and then a, really? Are you sure?
Or to lose a loved one to anyway. At least with cancer, you get to tie up your ends and tell them that you love them.
Because over 25 and a half years.
Like these people that their daughter got murdered, they didn't even have that. To die from cancer is almost a blessing because I know that it's painful, but you get to say goodbye.
So looking good.
Investigators explain they have a written confession and DNA match.
My immediate thought to myself was, wow, this is finally it.
It was literally unbelievable in that after that amount of time, you know, statistically, it was virtually impossible that this was ever going to happen. And then it did.
But exactly who is Lisa's alleged killer? The DA calls an urgent news conference to reveal once and for all the man's identity.
Today, I'm informing the public that the search for Lisa's assailant is over. Last Friday, September.
That guy doesn't look familiar at all.
15th, an arrest warrant was issued from the Westfield District Court for Gary E. Shara, age 48, of West Springfield, Massachusetts, which
I'm pretty sure that's who my friend Heather said it was. Wow, that's weird.
charges him with the murder, aggravated rape, and kidnapping of Lisa Ziegler on April 15th, 1992.
It was probably one of the strangest moments I've had in my life. Looking at the face picture of the person who had done this to our Lisa.
After 25 years, being able to have a name and have a face to put with the anger that I had about my sister's killer, I was feeling like at least I had focus now.
And it turns out the local residents' worst fears were realized. He's been among us. He's been in the community. The suspect grew up in the neighboring town of Longmeadow, only 5 miles
Wow, he grew up in one of the richest towns.
from Lisa's hometown of Agawam. He had been married and went through a divorce around the time or just before the murder. He has one child. That child is now adult. And according to recent news reports, Gary's ex-wife, Joyce McDonald, told relatives at the time of Lisa's death that she thought her husband was involved. Sadly, no one took her seriously, as she was battling alcoholism. And what about a likeness to the earlier composite?
I wasn't ready to see his twin, and I did. For me, it was more important with the picture to eliminate people as
This one is from my town, Lisa Ziegert.
opposed to identify people.
But do they recognize the man who allegedly murdered Lisa?
I had never heard the name Gary Shara before the news conference. I had never heard of this person.
Lisa's friend, Ed Borgatti, who lived the past 2.5 decades under a cloud of suspicion, is also present at the press conference.
There's a feeling of incredible relief. A friend of mine summed it up perfect. He said, for 25 years, he said, he woke up 70% at Borgatti. He said,
Yeah, he did get caught.
hey, you're 100%. I appreciated that. And that summed it up.
Ed Borgatti is owed an apology by every person who slandered him and had a mean and horrible comments to say about him.
While the news conference is underway, Massachusetts State Police troopers pick up the suspect from Connecticut and begin extradition back to Massachusetts. And as they make their way across Route 5 South End Bridge connecting the two states,
There was a line of traffic, and there was bumper to bumper, and people in the community knew that we had them and we were bringing them back. And like going through that traffic, people were literally putting their hands out their windows of their cars, fist pumping that. So they felt good. That part of it felt very rewarding to our troopers and the local officers that were involved in it. There was a bit of excitement and joy about the prospect of this being something real. But there was
She didn't have any children, but she was somebody's daughter. She was only 24. It was right down the street from where I lived.
a lot of caution too, because there
Never mind. Wow. That's terrible, Bobby.
were some false alarms in the past over many years.
the news media gets wind of an arrest. Cameras are recording as a police escort arrives outside the Agawam police headquarters. It'll be the first time the community will get a glimpse of the man who terrorized their small town all those years ago. Then, the moment everyone has been waiting for. Gary Shara enters the court to be charged with Lisa's murder.
On April 15, 1992, in the town of Agawam, he did commit murder, aggravated rape, and kidnapping.
The Seeger family is in court as he enters a plea of not guilty. It is the first time they have seen the man who stands accused of killing their Lisa.
They should let the families have at least 10 minutes beating the crap out of them. Really, Bobby? Wow.
Right between that angry and that that feeling that you're numb and you don't have anything.
But for the Seegers, this trial is not about the man who allegedly murdered their daughter. It's about justice for Lisa.
Your life will never be the same. But bringing the person to justice, at least that's something you can do for them.
Joining me here in New York now is the producer of the story you just watched, Karen Dabrowski. Karen, thanks very much for being here. We've covered a lot of crime stories together, but this one, knowing the victim, investigating the story, that has to be difficult.
It is. Thanks for having me here too, Chris. It was difficult because I actually went to school with Lisa. I graduated a year before her, and it was really hard not to have it affect her life. I remember the day my mom called to tell me she was missing. And then days later that she had been found. And for the past 25 years, it's kind of haunted all of us. And it's really sad. It's tragic.
What kind of an impact did this have on this small town in Massachusetts called Agawam?
I think for Agawam, where this type of thing doesn't happen, it was very hard. I think in the beginning, people were afraid. Was this a serial killer that came into town? Was this somebody that she knew that was still living amongst us?
And I think for years to come, people just wanted answers. They just wanted to know what happened.
You were recently in your hometown for your high school reunion. I assume this was the talk for you.
Everybody was talking about it, Chris. I think everyone wanted to know why this happened. I think now that they had a name and knew that the killer was behind bars, I think at this point everyone wants to know why it happened. Did he know Lisa?
Shara lived within miles of the victim's family for years.
I think that's what makes people so angry, and I think he watched as the family kept looking for her killer. He watched the visuals happen, the fundraisers, and then he watched everybody go through this cloud of suspicion.
Doesn't make sense though. I wonder why he did that to her. I mean, what brought him there? Like, how did he know her? What was the connection?
He actually did this. That's evil. It's really messed up. And it angers a lot of people.
Karen, thanks for your great reporting on this case. I know you'll continue to follow the story as Shara heads to court. And of course, we'll bring you the very latest right here on Crime Watch Daily. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.
Serial killer. He is joining us live tonight and has been following this case very close.
This is the Long Island one that Teach TV was talking about.
And is the co-host of the Discovery Plus podcast and docuseries called Unraveled: Long Island Serial Killer. He is joining us live tonight and has been following this case very closely. Billy, appreciate you taking some time. This, as I said a moment ago, is a very, very complicated case and investigation with allegations of corruption behind the scenes over the last decade. Do you believe that this new task force that has now been formed has the evidence that it needs to catch this serial killer?
I do. Yes, I definitely do.
That's what I'm confused about. I mean, to me, you would think that I want to know, like, did they know each other? How did, you know? Like, what happened to him? It says he wrote a confession letter, but I still want to know how he knew her. No, it didn't come up. You're right. He says, I was fascinated by abduction and bondage. I've never really been or felt normal from a young age. I was fascinated by abduction and bondage. I could never keep it too far from my mind on that fateful day. His girlfriend discovered the letters at her home. I murdered a young woman 25 years ago. I had no intentions of killing her when I grabbed her, but the event spun out of control, and in the eyes of the law, it's all the same. I have never regretted anything more. I knew one day it would catch up to me, and now it has. I want to know how he ended up. Says no clues as to why he targeted her. That makes no sense. That gift shop is not in like a normal area. It's not. That really just really is strange. I mean, that really makes no sense. It's just such an out of the way place, you know? Now, the weird thing, though, they never try to figure this one out. They never try to figure this one out.
Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I am Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my sister and partner in crime, Christy Brower.
This one happened in my town, too.
How is it going? Oh, so good. I've been baking. I'm keto, and learning to keto bake, I'm telling you, you kind of got to start over with the baking skills. You're right. One of my favorites this time of year, and to be able to make a keto so it's low carb is so awesome. Really nice. And finally, it's taken a lot of normal to me. Like a lot of sugar would probably just taste horrible to me. This morning, pouring some pieces, working on some Christmas presents, and 4 pieces, and working with them. So yeah. Anyway, I'll show them to you before they ship out. But they are that's really cool. Yeah, so anyway, just that.
No, sounds like fun.
Spending the day, playing on TikTok while I play with it. That's it.
Hey,
It's a decent life, right? It is life. That's it. Yeah, and we had our first son.
at this point, we kind of deserve it. We
Yeah.
can't complain anymore. It's just
First short time. Yeah. Yeah, and there's some big holes and questions in it, so I think we will get to fill in some gaps for us. Heard of this? Yeah, and there's some big holes and questions in it, so I think we will get to fill in some gaps for us. So this is 16-year-old Ashley Turniak. This happened
Beautiful, pretty girl. Pretty little girl. Went to the same high school as my daughter did.
in 1998 on November 9th. Oh wow, so we're like actually on the cusp of the anniversary.
the anniversary. That's interesting.
Realize that until I said it. Yeah,
22 years. Wow.
22 years. So she went to Agawam High School in
Agawam.
Agawam or Agawam? I'm just going to say Agawam,
Agawam.
Massachusetts. And so she got to school and was late. So apparently school started about at 7:30 and she got there a little bit late. And apparently they had a policy that if you had more than 6 tardies, you couldn't come to school. So she got to school late and was basically dismissed. And so
So the school made her leave.
she was waiting outside the school for a ride. And there had been some stories that she was just skipping school for the day and was waiting with a friend, but no friends ever came forward. And then the school finally did say no, she had been dismissed for the day because she had too many.
Oh, so they finally came forward. See. Wow. Now this was made 2 years ago. Okay. And for the longest time, they'd been saying that she was just like kind of loitering around in the parking lot, smoking a cigarette, and told her friend that she'd be in later. But they finally came up and said that they had dismissed her because she was late. Wow. Without knowing if she had a ride?
Seems like a weird way to handle lates, but okay. Right, for sure. So anyway, she was waiting outside of
Now,
the
I've
school.
never heard that in my life. That never happened even with my daughter or my nieces, nothing like that.
And I talked to some friends and told them, that she was waiting. So at any rate, it sounds like she was waiting outside in front of the school for a ride, the last anybody knew. So.
But I mean, did she call for a ride? Because back then, were cell phones like prevalent? This was in 1998. So what's the chances that a 16-year-old had a cell phone then?
The next thing that happened was about 20 minutes later. She was on I-91 southbound in Longmeadow. This was right before the Connecticut.
In Longmeadow. Right before the Connecticut line. Now, who did we just hear was from Longmeadow and had been found in Connecticut? Was that guy.
Massachusetts state line. And some witness cars said that they saw her in the passenger seat of a car, struggling and looking like she was trying to wave down a state trooper. There was a state trooper in the center median, but he did not see her. And so the car just flew on past. But there were.
Can you imagine? Help so close. I wonder if she had started to walk home and that guy picked her up. Now, mind you, this would have been around 7:30 in the morning.
Some witnesses that saw that before they could do anything or anything else, could be done, her body was hurled out of the passenger's window. Feet first.
Feet first. Now, I don't think that's hurling her out the window. I think that's her jumping out the window. Now, that highway is a highway, so. She probably thought that was the best time to do it since there was a cop there. How? But if there was, oh man, what a shame.
Feet first onto the concrete. The car, they estimate, was going somewhere between 50 and 65 miles an hour. She did not have the growth went out while driving, or she jumped out the whole body. Wow, but feet first, no, feet first. Well, there was theories on how she would have swung herself out, but anyway, she
Feet first.
ended up out of the car, and this was a really busy. I mean, this was 7:45 in the morning. There was a ton of traffic on the road. A few different cars had to swerve to avoid hitting her. But they did get her, moved to the side of the road and got an ambulance there, and she died before they could even get her to the hospital. She died on scene.
How is it possible nobody got that license plate?
From the impact of hitting the road. A little bit later down the road, a little ways down the road, they found her backpack, like somebody had thrown it out the window. She didn't have shoes on, which, presumably she did when she got in that car. The whole thing happened so fast that none of the witnesses had a good description of the car. Some said it was blue, some said it was tan. Nobody.
Why?
Nobody knew what kind of car it was. This car immediately crossed over into Connecticut and was just in the wind. Wow. So in the flash of an eye, we have a dead teenager and we have nothing to go on. Oh my God. And again, there was just nobody knew what car she got in, who she got in with. Nothing. So one of the articles I read, someone said that they went to that school at that time, and they immediately changed that tardy policy. Seems wise. Not just send kids home. Also, I mean, you got to think about, just as a parent of kids in high school or any school, just, kids just coming and going and not knowing who they're with. I guess by high school, that's a little bit more normal, but, they didn't know. Mm-hmm. She was just waiting on the curb for a ride, so nobody knows what ride she got into with these little people she knew.
Mm-mm. Something's messed up with that.
For people she didn't, why she was in that car, how the hell she ended up out of the car the way she did. There was some speculation that maybe the door opened and she jumped out, but the witnesses that saw it all say no, she came out the window feet first. So that's literally all that's known about the case. There weren't ever any suspects. There were never no description of the car was ever released. The police just have nothing to go on. All they have is the witnesses, and there were luckily some witnesses that thought,
if they saw her trying to flag down the state trooper or, and stuff like that, why would they not have taken the fucking license plate? Why? Why couldn't have one person followed? If they got off that exit towards Long Meadow, Connecticut, strange.
Kind of what happened, but remember, this was going down a very busy road at high speeds, and it just happened so quickly. It was so shocking. And there was so much traffic on that road that the car was just in the wind really quick. So
you got a state trooper there in the median, and he couldn't have followed that car?
That's what happened. I mean, that's the whole story. So what do you think happened, Ashley?
Well, okay, so I see an older man who was known to the students. So this is someone who hung around the school, someone that was involved in the sports program or something, not a teacher, but somebody.
I think so too. I think the father of one of her friends probably offered her a ride home.
That the kids knew that was around and helped with various events at the school. I feel like this was somebody that, the kids knew quite well, but wasn't there every day, if that makes sense. So somebody to do with, it just keeps coming up. There was someone that was to do with sports, but kind of everybody knew this person. So she's sitting there waiting for her ride. I'm not sure she actually had a ride. I feel like she was just not sure what she was going to do. And this guy pulls up, and here's someone she knows. And so she's talking to him. He's the kind of guy, we knew a bus driver like this when we were.
But think about this. It's November. Okay? And she's got no shoes on. In 15 minutes, where would her shoes have gone?
In high school, who was had no boundaries at all and was really pretty inappropriate, particularly with the girls. But some of the girls kind of gravitated to that and kind of like that because this older man was showing interest in them. This is the kind of guy he was. Yucky, yucky, yucky. I feel like if they went back and looked in their records, that they would figure out who this person was, because I don't feel like he ever came back to that school. I feel like he just kept on driving and picked up his life and moved. And didn't come back to the school. But it was someone who was around at sometimes, like a lot, and then other times not so much, so it wouldn't necessarily be.
Right. Right. They would have called. Why didn't they call?
His absence wouldn't be noticed for a while. So she gets him to give her a ride. And as soon as they pull out of the school parking lot, he starts getting creepy. He starts touching her. He starts threatening her. He starts telling
I don't know. She got him to give her a ride. He probably offered the ride, knowing what he was going to do.
her what he's going to do to her. And she gets really scared. And that's what some people saw when they were driving by. I do feel like when she first got in the car, that she slipped her shoes off, that this was someone that she was feeling comfortable and safe with, that she slipped her shoes off, dropped her backpack on the floor. Like, she thought that she was with someone she could trust.
Yeah, I feel like that too. Like it was somebody's relative. I wonder what that Gary Charo guy did for a living.
He had no idea who this person was. I do feel like he was threatening to harm her and telling her what he was going to do to her. I also feel like he was heading out of the state with her, and she knew that they were not going to her house, and that so she started fighting him, trying to get out of the car. I feel like I do feel like he rolled the window down at one point and shoved her. She was trying to get, she was terrified, doing crazy things, trying to get out of the car and get away from him and begging him to pull over and let her out. And she at one point was trying to get out of the car, and I feel like he just helped her and shoved her out. And then threw her backpack out and just kept on driving. I don't think he realized he had her shoes until he was long gone. But I feel like, he had been threatening her and touching her. I don't feel like he'd really hurt her, that it was the impact from falling, coming out of the car that did kill her. Yeah. But she knew she was dead. I feel like she knew she was dead, and her only opportunity was to get out of the car and hopefully, survive those injuries, because if she stayed in the car with him, she was dead. I feel like this was not the first time he's done something like that, and I feel like he's still continued to do things like that, but he's very savvy. I don't think he's still active now, but at that time, I feel like he was very savvy about things like being near a state.
How do they know that there's only one guy, though?
Mm-hmm. And, getting to know girls, and, I would bet if, and it's probably too late now, but they could identify with your school records. This was someone that worked on the school campus sometimes. And if they were to question some of the other girls, I bet you'd find out that some of them were having a sexual relationship with him. And this girl didn't want that. She didn't get in the car with him thinking that's what was happening. And so she freaked out and started fighting him, and he had to get rid of her. Okay. So essentially he offered her a ride home. Yeah. Yeah, he offered her a ride home. She asked him, and he said yes, and then he saw his opportunity there. But then once they get out on that highway, then she knows the things that he's doing and saying. She knows what's happening. She knows she's got to get out of that car. And I feel like in that moment, we all have this survival instinct that will kick in, and it's why people will do things like jump out of a moving car, because if you stay in the car, you're going to die, and so you don't necessarily.
I just don't understand because for years the story was that one of her friends saw her outside saying she was standing near somebody saying she was smoking a cigarette.
Really think about that if you jump out of the car, you're also going to die. But in her mind, at least, she was trying to control the situation and be safe. And so she was just trying to get away from it. Well, it makes sense to me in that because when we were in high school, we had taken self-defense classes. Yeah. And they tell you that if you're being kidnapped, to go to wherever lengths to fight that you can, because if they once they get you in the car, you're dead. That's what they say, you know. And so do anything you can to avoid getting in the car. And I keep thinking that that's what was in her head. Yeah, you know, it makes sense. The same thing. Yeah, that she knew that if she continued in the car with him, she was dead. Yeah. Wow. That is so wild. I have a vision of him throwing those shoes in a dumpster at a fast food restaurant. Yeah. They noticed he had them. He just pulled through a parking lot, just saw a closed dumpster and tossed them in, you know, in Connecticut somewhere. And it was just whenever.
Seems like they didn't spend that much time trying to find out what happened to her. Isn't that weird? It's like it just got on, like. Why would that be the only video? That doesn't even fucking make sense. Tucker, stop that. Good night, Owl. Good night, Bobby. Much love and respect to you too. Love you. Who would fucking do that? Yeah, like.
Yeah. Wow. That is so wild. Hey.
It's fucking weird. Nothing else on it. Nothing else.
I have a vision of him throwing those shoes in her memory. You know, we're helping students grieve. Like it feels like they didn't. There were a lot of kids here that were, devastated by this and
no.
scared and hurt. And families that were hurt. I agree with that. I felt a real coldness around the school. Like there was just not what there should have been there in her memory. We're helping students grieve. Like it just. Let's believe it was anybody affiliated with them and really did not try to help because they didn't want anything coming back on them. I agree. I also feel like they didn't do a good job honoring her memory. We're helping students grieve. Like it feels like they didn't. There were a lot of kids here that were, devastated by this and shocked and scared and hurt and, families that were hurt. And I agree with that. I felt a real coldness around the school. Like there was just not what there should have been there. Well, where they had sent her home and she was in their parking lot when she disappeared. I mean, they were very.
That doesn't even make sense. There's no videos on it and nothing. And Agawam is a small town. That makes no sense.
Afraid of being identified as part of the problem. Had they done their due diligence at all, they would have found this person because they knew him. And I don't think that they consciously knew that they did, but had they done any of their own research or watched for a while about people who didn't show up anymore, they would have found him. Yeah. Because he was definitely known to the students, not just her, but to a lot of the students, especially the girls. Right? Him being around wouldn't have been a weird thing. No, no, he was involved with some things that meant that he had access. What color do you think the car actually was? I think it's blue. Blue. Yeah, I think it's blue and an older car. I think this was 98, but I mean, even then, it seemed to be an older car. I mean, kind of a bigger sedan. Okay. Well, wow, what a case. I was thinking, like, from a parent's point of view, can you imagine? No. Thinking your kid is at school and learning that she's just been scooped up off the side of the highway. Yeah. Well, yeah, but all of this happened in this very short amount of time when you think your kid is at school and safe. It's also a miracle that it didn't cause any more accidents. Right. And that one of the next cars in the row there didn't hit her. Yeah. It sounded like that was kind of a bit of a dust up for cars to get stopped, I bet it was. Yeah. I bet it was. Yeah. Yep. And sadly,
I want to know how she got to school. I want to know how she got to school. I mean, she goes there. Okay, so it's cold because it's what, November 20 something they said, like, so it's November. Obviously, she has her backpack with her. Probably snowing. So, I mean, your shoes aren't going to be slip-ons. You ain't slipping your shoes off. Hell no. There's more to that story. And why are her parents not? I can't even understand. Nothing. That makes no sense. That's that makes no sense. Nothing. That one video. That one video. That fucking makes no sense.
She tried to get the attention of the officer, and he was just, his car was turned the other direction. He was scanning traffic coming the other way and just didn't see her.
Yeah. Well, it all happened so quickly and with no way to call or, anything.
Yeah, what a case. It's just a really, and for all of her friends and stuff, what a shock at that age to have a friend just die like that.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, like, how that affected the community. And,
really makes me wonder though if some of the other girls her age had a suspicion about this man. But
it does make me wonder.
I think that he, was having sexual relationships with as many of those teenage girls as would allow, and it's okay.
This is very weird.
They could speak up because they would be afraid, and they knew it. And so they didn't say. But I really think that there are probably some girls that went to school with her that had a pretty good idea who did that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he sounds to me like one of those guys that, definitely had no problem gaslighting and,
oh yeah,
convincing them, if you ever told anyone about this, they would never believe you, And,
yeah.
So,
for sure.
And perhaps they maybe didn't even, wouldn't have thought he would do something like this because he didn't do that to them, in teenage stink styles,
Exactly. And I mean, the only reason is because she was non-compliant.
Stop the world and let me on.
In Agawam now, a mom is on high alert after finding dozens of heroin bags while on her way to drop her daughter off at elementary school.
Western Mass News reporter Braceda Landaverde joins us now live from Agawam with more on how police are responding to the discovery. Braceda?
Yeah, well, Chris and Jordan, Agawam police say that bags used to hold heroin were found here in town on Miguel Avenue. Now they say it was determined they were unused and empty. Earlier this afternoon, we spoke with a mother who did not wish to be identified. Now she tells Western Mass News last week she noticed about 14 heroin bags on her way to drop off her daughter at Clifford Granger Elementary, which is about 3/4 of a mile down from her house on Yale Avenue. This week, she says she found about 25 more heroin bags and is concerned for her family-oriented neighborhood.
I just don't want somebody's child picking them up and not knowing what it is or overdosing or whatever.
State police are investigating a deadly fiery crash on Route 57 in Agawam. State police told Plains News that one person died in a single vehicle crash on Route 57 westbound next to the Garden Street overpass just before 4 this morning. Police say a 2021 Lincoln Navigator was westbound when it went off the road right and struck the bridge abutment. The vehicle then caught fire. Agawam fire crews put the fire out and discovered a body inside. The identity of the driver is not known at this time. The crash is being investigated.
I just can't believe that there's nothing about her.
Time now, 6:08. Plains News, the following break. The Agawam Indians of Agawam, Massachusetts. Hi, John Kelly. I'm standing on the banks of the Connecticut River in Agawam, Massachusetts, home of the once mighty Agawam Indians. No, I'm not talking about
The history.
I'm talking about
A little history here.
the original inhabitants of the greater Springfield area. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to my latest video entitled Agawam, the First People. Now, the history of the Agawam Indians is the history of the Connecticut River Valley. So let's start there. The first stop on our quest, Greenfield, Massachusetts. We'll be speaking with Ed Gregory. Ed's a local historian who has in-depth knowledge of the early industrial America. He's also one of the founding members of the Jurassic Roadshow. Paleontology, geology, and ichnology is Ed's. Good, nice day. We'll show you my area. The dinosaurs that were in our area during the Triassic were not the large, lumbering animals that you commonly see. But during the Jurassic period, we had smaller dinosaurs, such as the Coelophysis, which you're looking at here. And Coelophysis was probably 3 or 4 feet tall, like 6 to 8 feet long, a theropod dinosaur, predatory animal, fleet of foot, and quick to kill. And one of the largest that we had.
Can you believe that? Doesn't it? 2 little facts to her disappearance. I know, I know. I'd love to research that. Can you believe there was fucking dinosaurs around here?
In the area is attributed to this guy here, which is Dilophosaurus. And Dilophosaurus was an apex predator, and it was probably 8 to 10 feet tall, and from tip of snout to the end of its tail, quite possibly could have grown to 20 feet. During the time of the track makers in our era, there were huge geologic changes taking place on the planet.
You can see like the tracks, like they still have them like blocked off and stuff. Alligator track. I mean, not alligator, dinosaurs.
During the Triassic and Jurassic era, the supercontinent of Pangaea was being broken apart by tectonic plate action. And we've moved now into the Cretaceous area, which provided the 5th and final mass extinction on planet Earth. This is the Cretaceous Tertiary. Just Google Jurassic Roadshow, and you'll find a wealth of information there. Thank you once again. The largest mass extinction of organisms on Earth occurred. Up to 96% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial life had died off. It didn't happen overnight. Most scientists believe that it occurred over a time period of about 10,000 years. Several massive lava flows, hundreds of feet deep, had welled up in faults, created continents, the cooling of global temperatures, and the rise of mammals as the prominent vertebrates. The next major event happened during the Quaternary period. It ranged from 1.8 million to the present. This era saw the rise of Homo erectus, also known as early human, who had traveled from Africa to Asia to Europe. It was also a period when glacial ice had covered over a quarter of the land surface of the planet. Scientists believe that there had been as many as 16 glacial advances in retreat, some with storage pits. More complex social groupings emerged, supported by more varied and reliable food sources and specialized tools. Artistic work blossomed with cave painting, petroglyphs.
I thought this was about Agawam.
Which would eventually encompass almost half of planet Earth. Towns and cities. For the Native Americans, the fish was a major food source. It could be dried. Peter has a wide-ranging background, including archaeology, paleontology, anthropology, natural sciences, forensic sciences. I was fortunate to record cultures, peoples have changed more substantially. The earliest people that we know about that occupied the Agawam area is some 400 generations ago. And archaeologists call them Paleo-Indians, and is the old Indians. This is a time when the land in the Connecticut Valley has begun to recover from a mile and a half of ice over the top of us that extended all the way to Long Island during the glacial period. And as the ice receded north, the land began to recover, but it's still a Arctic environment. And the people that are coming into what we know of the Agawam area today only exist for 1,000 to 2,000 years.
and other game animals and bear, but pretty low population density. So that we anticipate that the cultural groups that were coming into this environment and trying to live were small and moved about, not in the areas that we talk about the Paleo Indians over hundreds of miles, but certainly so they're using the wetlands as well, which are much more common than they would become later. This is what we call the
established in their fort at Hartford to dissuade the Indians at Springfield from sending their furs to or dealing with the English in any way. A few of the Dutch, it seemed, had gone up in the winter of 1633-34 to the Springfield Indian fort to stay a while and to induce them to dispose all their furs in Hartford. But the enterprise failed, says Bradford, for it pleased God to visit these Indians with a great sickness, and such was the mortality that over 950 of the 1,001 fort died. And the Dutch almost starved before they could get away. Gradually, they worked their way back to Windsor, and
Wow, they were just killing them off. I didn't know I had fucking unplugged it. Silly me.
Congrats on going to college. Now the fun begins with setting up your dorm. Make it. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Annie Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we talk everything true crime. So if you've never stopped by this channel before and it's your first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the case coverage, and for everybody here, listen to this podcast alone, it probably isn't going to make as much sense as if you watch those other videos to get the full comprehensive overview. In short, Lily was a beautiful 10-year-old girl from Wisconsin. She was walking home from her aunt's house last month when she was brutally murdered and then essayed by her 14-year-old cousin, Carson Peters Berger. And yes, you heard that correctly. He first murdered her and then he essayed her body. And if you don't know what essay means, somebody throw it in the chat room.
I don't know what that means. Essayed her body. I don't know what that means.
revisit a harrowing.
No.
Revisit a harrowing tale. One teenage daughter on the darkest of journeys, disappearing into the internet sex trade. A nightline investigation into the controversial classified site Backpage.com, accused of making sex trafficking possible. One family's fight for justice. Here again is our special edition, Daughters for Sale, ABC's Gloria Riviera.
When I grow up, I'd like to be a doctor.
You gotta be fucking kidding me right now. I mean,
like to do in my life is go upset, but lay ahead with a nightmare her parents never saw coming.
They took everything from my little girl.
I live in an American town. How can my kid be sold on the internet? A few short years after this video was taken, the 15-year-old, who we'll call Natalie, would be sold for sex through the website Backpage.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Huh. How many cameras do you think you had during that time? Over 150. Over 150? Yeah. Would that have been possible without Backpage? No.
This saga led Natalie to join a major lawsuit against Backpage with other girls like her.
Hey, lady, hang on, there's one
Today, Natalie is 21 years old and a mother herself.
Why the decision to speak publicly? I don't just do it for myself. I do it for other families.
Similar to Craigslist, Backpage is a basic classified ad site, but with racy adult sections like escorts and body rubs. Technically legal services that law enforcement has called thinly veiled code for prostitution. The majority of children who are sold for sex in the United States today was trafficked using Backpage. And now Backpage is also under investigation by the U.S. Senate. This is one of the last photos taken of Natalie before she made the choice that would change her life forever. She ran away from home.
I just wanted to get my parents' attention. I'll do scatterbrain.
Why would she run away from home? Why? Why?
When her parents found the farewell letter she left behind, they called the police.
I was in shock. God, why?
I'm sure the police probably said, oh, she's a runaway.
Where? How?
Natalie took a bus 30 miles to downtown Seattle, where she said she met an older girl at a youth shelter who introduced her to life on the streets.
Oh.
I picked this up and then took us to his house. And then that's when I got raped for the first time. After it happened, he threw a towel at me and
I'd want to kill.
some carpet cleaner. I wanted to clean up the carpet because there was blood. You were a virgin. Yeah.
This first traumatic encounter sent Natalie down a dark path, a path that eventually led her to this man, 32-year-old Baruti Hobson. She says he was kind to her, offered her a place to stay.
Where's he from? Get him out of the country. Get him out of here. Not even get him out of here. Just fucking off him. There's no reason to fucking keep the guy alive. Just off him.
Started talking to him, confided in him a little bit about how stressed out I was.
But soon the dynamic dangerously changed.
He had asked me if I had ever worked before, and then he told me that I wouldn't be on the street. And then that's when Backpage came into play. What did he say to you about Backpage? Said it's safer, said it's easier not to get caught.
But sounds like she kind of knew what she was going to be doing there.
That's titled Well Worth It, $150 an hour, and it won't take long at all. Natalie says she started earning $4,000 a weekend.
What? So she knew.
For sex, handing over all the cash to Hobson.
He started getting physically abusive, and he would sleep in the living room next to the front door. So I didn't.
So is that why she's mad? Because she had to hand over all the cash? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny here. But did she leave? Like, come on. I want to know what made her leave. What was on her computer before she left?
So I leave. How often did you work? Every single day. It's too simple. Ask me for 18 or older. And simple yes, click was about as far as that went.
We tore our family apart.
Natalie's father, Tom, says he would spend his days driving around Seattle.
The dreams of, her going to college.
Searching desperately for his missing girl.
Day after day, yeah.
He feared she might be working the streets. The idea alone pushed him to a breaking point.
What ran through my mind is
What was on her computer?
what I was going to do, how I was going to handle it when I found her. It would have been good for them. I know that.
Later, Natalie's parents found out she wasn't even on the street, but being sold online.
What was it like for you to realize what was going on with Backpage? When you hear that your 15-year-old child is posting an ad for sex, or for rape in her case, and that she's getting
25 to 30 calls an hour. And you're thinking, okay, well, how many of these is she having to answer? I mean, how many times a day is my child being raped?
Right now, U.S. law protects Backpage
Really?
from being held legally responsible for what users post on its site.
If someone advertises a faulty motorcycle, the buyer of that motorcycle shouldn't be able to sue Backpage merely for posting the ad. Under the law, there is no difference between Backpage posting the advertisement for the faulty motorcycle and posting the advertisement for the underage girl. Backpage.
But yeah, there should be things in place. Really? Wow. Did they bust it?
Page, based in Dallas, says they voluntarily put in place a multi-tiered system for screening ads, which includes employing moderators, a filter for keywords, and a user-reported flagging system. In 2012, their attorney told Nightline,
online child exploitation exists, and the best tools to fight it are also online. And Backpage.com is currently one of the very best tools to fight it.
But Seattle's police department Vice Squad tells us they find underage girls listed on Backpage all the time.
Age 18 is still too young as far as I'm concerned. Did they bust it finally, Night Owl?
Including Natalie, who they rescued in a hotel sting set up through her Backpage ad 108 days after she went missing.
You're in his hotel room. He says, I know who you are, Natalie. Instantly, I saw storms of cops outside.
One of those cops, this man, Detective Bill Geyer.
Yeah, see if you're available.
Thank God that her parents were so adamant, huh?
Almost remind me of that.
Detective Geyer formed a special bond with Natalie. He helped her through Baruti Hobson's trial. Hobson sentenced to 26 years for promoting the commercial sex abuse of a minor.
Tell her and the other girl that even though they don't want to go to court, I'd like to get them to the point where they can't wait to get on the stand and point them out to that's the piece of crap that did this.
They should have to go to court.
Today, Detective Geyer is still on a mission with Seattle Vice Squad.
But anonymously.
The Backpage sting.
What we want to do on here is we want to post an ad and we want to do an awareness for it.
Like most other members of this squad, this detective frequently goes undercover, so has asked that we not show
Just like how these YouTubers get to be. Wow, that's horrible. What were they doing with them? Sex trafficking them? How long ago?
At least 18 years of age or older. But all you have to do is say, I agree, and then continue. One click, and you're through that.
We're here to see what happens when you post a Backpage ad that suggests an underage girl is involved. The detective creates an ad for an 18-year-old girl named Angel, adding a critical detail, the mention of a younger friend.
And then here's the kicker, right? Ask about my younger friend.
Within minutes of pressing post, the ad is up and running.
In just minutes, we have an ad that essentially is advertising an underage girl. Oh my God. We've gotten several phone calls, several texts. Hey, beautiful, are you Angel?
Wow, so they don't look for keywords. Wow. They were doing the sex trafficking in on the mattresses? Really? I'll look it up.
Oh, right then, there's one. It's 7:18. It hasn't even been up for half an hour. This is crazy.
24 hours later, we're in a Seattle hotel with the Vice Squad. Angel's ad is still up and running. It has yet to be taken down by Backpage.
We are using the fruits
Wow.
from what we planned yesterday.
They brought in Katie, an undercover cop who will pretend to be Angel.
So this is our ad that we posted 24 hours ago, but still getting responses. And Katie is writing back to see if you guys will come meet an underage girl here for sex.
She calls back a man who left a voicemail about the ad. Hello. She tells him she's 16 and the Fed will be joining them only 15.
Okay, look forward to it. Okay, I'm gonna come to the window. Okay, I'm in the window, like on the very far end, kind of near like a flagpole. Me and my friend are standing there in the window. We're gonna wait till you.
The scenario has been set up. This guy's walking up right. Now he thinks he's coming up to meet a 15 and 16-year-old girl for sex.
No, he's in like a royal blue shirt and he has a fedora on.
Relax.
They don't show him. They give him anonymity, which they shouldn't. Anonymity. They shouldn't.
So these girls that you're coming here to see today, how old are they?
You said something that you
What did they say?
You said you're 16? No,
How old is that girl?
you're
Yeah, it doesn't bother you.
So I just heard that there's this meeting and I just wanted to.
And what? Meeting in what? Just like Scrabble?
No, I just wanted to be more friends out here. So
The man pled not guilty to attempted commercial sex abuse of a minor. Backpage things like this are becoming commonplace across the country. Backpage tells us they make sure to always cooperate
Right.
with law enforcement investigation. But for Natalie and other girls suing the site, it's not about catching clients, but holding the man behind it accountable.
He's just as accountable as the pimp that's open, in my mind.
Carl Ferrer, when we come back, see what he does. We track him down and proceeds.
He was trafficked on Backpage.
What town? Night Owl. This one's 3 months ago. That's awful. Oh my God, I can't even think about that.
January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and as a part of the new documentary produced locally here in Metro Detroit, is working to expose the horrors of what's really going on.
Yeah, the fact is, it's happening here in our community and around the world. Our Megan Woods spoke to the people behind the film about the message they hope it will send.
This documentary is called Men Who Buy Sex, Everybody Pays. It's produced by the Wayne County Medical Society Foundation, and it gets
What county?
First at 5, we begin with a big story, sexting. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Brian Abel. This is the second major prostitution sweep for Warren Police this year.
46 people were arrested, 25 women and 21 men, ranging in ages from 18 to 60 years old.
This time, Operation Crusade lasted 3 days, and those 46 people who were arrested are facing charges of prostitution, pandering, and drugs.
7 Action News reporter Jim Kirchner is live in Warren right now with more on this sexting. Fill us in, Jim.
Carolyn?
Life is wonderful indeed. Wonderful mother, daughter, great daughter.
A convicted killer choked back tears today, moments before a judge sentenced him to at least 33 years in prison and up to 100 years, the maximum penalty for murdering his pregnant wife. Richard Kitchelar strangled his wife Amber, a beloved
Wayne County? Okay.
Kentwood Middle School teacher. Target investigator Susan Samples obtained police reports that reveal the nightmare behind closed doors and how Amber herself helped expose her husband's murderous rage.
She's not breathing. She's not breathing.
What's the address?
Else's child in someone else's community, you're wrong.
Teenage girls who were living in a group home in Mount Pleasant. They ran away, and they had the bad luck to meet their captor at a gas station, and he offered them the moon.
Pimps will have their girls recruiting other girls on everything from Facebook, Instagram, Kick. It doesn't matter.
Hear these men talk about these girls as property. Within 3 days, all I have to do is pet her head.
True. We've all heard it before from people in this community too, who talk about these women as lizard bots or lot lizards or whatever they are, right?
Like a dog, and she'll do anything that I want her to do.
Many times they'll be videotaped and blackmailed to continue the activity. They now become property of that pimp.
I had a client that I think I missed. I think she was being labored. She was being forced, threatened, to do things against her will. Matter of fact, she used the term, he's using me as a slave.
That's what goes on.
And thinking back on it now, what more did I need from that? Her mother was involved in sex trafficking trade and was actually trafficking her daughter.
We initially received a 911 phone call of a residential structure fire, and upon arrival, we learned there were potentially 5 victims in the basement of the structure. And unfortunately, 5 Mexican nationals perished
in Novi, Michigan.
That fire, ranging in age from 16 to 23.
Kids coming out of foster care, growing up, being kicked out of the house. LGBT community, you come out to your parents, your family, they find out and then they kick them out of the house.
And I'm dressed up, given half a Valium, and they take me out on a stroll.
Wow.
And I'm told, you run, you say anything to the police, I'm killing your mother, your brother, your sister, I'm killing them all. And you will never see the light of day. You will never get away from me.
I think that's why some of those people that Tom Reed fucking interviewed got killed, because they thought that he was the cops.
I'm Dr. Herbert Smith, a member of the Michigan Human Trafficking Commission. I would like to begin by thanking you for joining us today for this very important CME training program. Over the next hour, we will be joined by my friend and colleague, potential victims. Please join us now as we familiarize you with human trafficking, its impact and consequences.
Have first-hand knowledge of the crimes of trafficking and its resultant victimization. In total, we will hear from law enforcement agents, federal and state prosecutors, judges, advocacy clinicians, and physicians.
Since 2006. The current state of the law includes the fact that there are 4 ways to commit the crime of human trafficking. The basic is forced labor services, which is essentially labor services obtained through force, fraud, or coercion. That's right in line with the federal law on human trafficking. In terms of cases that are brought in the federal system or the state system, typically what happens is a collaboration. We'll talk with our counterparts in the state system.
Sounds like a lot of red tape to just get something done.
This man's wife has been sold for $1,000 to one of Turkey's most notorious and violent sex traffickers. When you're with them, they name you. Each one names you a different name. You can't say my name is Tina. My name's not Tina. I don't even pick my name. They pick your name for you. They say your name is Sunshine. One of my names was Sunshine. They pick your name. So each one renames you. Very similar to slavery when they named them and made them call themselves a different name. I didn't have a choice. Did I want to eat?
Wow.
Did I want to pay my rent? Did I want to be able to get transportation in the city? I'm selling my body for money so I could take a bus. You know, that doesn't sound like a choice. She lost her glasses all day, so the trafficking situation. And her prescription was quite strong, so she couldn't see who was coming in the room that sex with her.
Wow. Lost her glasses.
Are judging you, so you can't go to them because they're talking about you. They think this is a choice. So now I have to pretend that this is what I want to do. Now I have to say,
I mean, look at the women that have been on a particular channel that we all are familiar with, right? And we know they had something to do with their children's, you know, where they ended up in prostitution. And people would still be saying, you know, oh, this one's my favorite. Oh, I'm sending them something. Oh, can you give this to them? Knowing that basically some particular women had sold their own children into prostitution. Isn't that crazy?
there, it's just about the money. I have to make up these things to fit in so you won't think bad about me. So what does that do to someone's mental state? Well, you lose hope. I think when we think about sex trafficking in DC, all our minds go.
And you know, and all Tom Reed wants to do is not talk about it, not talk about it, not talk about it. And then finally, when the news does want to talk about it, with the girl that had put, you know, the baby in the trash, then he gets all fucking, you know, bitter about the fact they didn't want to talk about it when he wanted to talk about it. So fuck them now. When does it matter when they take notice as long as they take notice, Tom Reed?
Internationally at first, or it goes to the posters that we've seen with people with their hands up with barcodes on the ground, a misinterpretation of what trafficking actually is.
Trafficking occurs when youth exchange anything of value for sex. So it could be a cell phone, it could be a ride, it could be a place to speak, it could be drugs.
Under the federal law, any minor engaged in
Even if they're not
a
minors,
commercial sex act is considered a
even if they're not minors. If somebody's fucking 22 years old and they're fucking kidnapped from their parents, they're still somebody's baby.
victim of human trafficking. And so, you know, most often that looks like children being exploited through the system of prostitution. But it's not limited to that. So when you see young people who are being exploited in strip clubs, through pornography, through massage parlors, all of that.
But what if they're
sex
not
trafficking.
under the age? What if they're fucking above the age, but they're being sex trafficked? I mean, come on, that happens. What is that, a loophole? They can get away with it?
Child sex trafficking under the law. So some people may not be aware, but there are 4 paradigms of sex trafficking: family control, survival sex, gang control, and pimp control.
Families who may sexually exploit children within the family.
But what if they're not children?
Or extended relatives as a means of supporting a family need. Addiction may play a role in that.
Familial exploitation, I think, works because children rely on their families to have their needs.
Wow.
met, and their families are often the most important people in their lives. And so if your family member has expressed to you that, I need you to do this so that we can pay the rent, or I need you to do this so that we can buy your sister's medicine, things like that make it really difficult.
Wow, you never think of it like that, huh? That a mother might be saying that to their little kids. It's sick. Sick. Keep bringing her firewood. Keep bringing her firewood, Tom Reed. Everybody keep donating to that person.
For the child to feel like, A, that they would tell anybody that it's happening, and B, like there's any other option that the family has.
A current case that's up right now of a young girl that we have that's 10 years old, and it was definitely her mother. And she was selling her on the street and online on Instagram as well. Did the people know her age?
But how about if the internet wasn't around? Would she have a harder time doing that?
Well, they knew that she was 10 years old knowingly, and it was the mother who would make the dates for her. So that is definitely family control situation. She was removed from her home, and the mother is being charged.
And it is especially difficult.
How about the men that had sex with her? How about the fucking internet people that made money by pimping her out? Who cares if the fucking ad is, oh, you can't say what's an ad? It's still pimping her out. It is a cycle. It's a process. There are different, come on, man.
If they do report anything to anyone, they kind of know a bit about what might happen if they raise information to an authority or even to a teacher who would likely call an authority. And for that child, the worst case scenario might be being removed from their.
Yeah, for a teacher, okay? To raise the scenario to a teacher. Tell me about the schools in the areas that are most plagued by prostitution. Is there any? Are they lacking in teachers? Are they lacking in supplies? Are they even there? Come on. Is there schools left in Detroit? Night Owl, are you still here? Is there schools left in Detroit?
Home. I think the level of betrayal in those particular cases that the youth feels is profound to be trafficked by a family member. We don't want youth to live in a world where they're already so used to their body being violated, perhaps by a loved one or family member or a teacher.
Or even hearing women be degraded, you women's, you lot lizards, you bitches.
Actually be in a position where they're using survival sex to get needs met, because survival sex, it might sound confusing, but for some youth, they feel more sense of control engaging in survival sex than staying at home and experiencing serial rape by a loved one. And sometimes those feel like the opposite.
Wow. Now that could be what might be going on with, I don't know, a lot of people.
Things that kids have. Survival sex, which is where they don't have a trafficker necessarily, but they have a buyer who's willing to exploit their vulnerabilities, and instead of maybe providing them with money, is instead providing them with food or shelter.
What are the schools like where you are?
Survival sex essentially is any sort of a sexual act that people would participate in order to get their needs met. So, for example, I have a client who is now she's 20, and she has a child, and various points during her time in foster care, she hasn't felt comfortable staying where she was supposed to stay. She didn't feel like she had a way to feed herself or her son. So she'd find herself in situations where she might sleep with someone to make sure that she and her son had somewhere to stay that night.
Your environment is not giving you a stable place.
Well, you said she was in foster care, and then she was 20, and now she has a son. And yet she still has nowhere to live. And why is that? Like, who dropped the ball? Nice lady with the red lipstick and the haircut doing the interview. Who dropped that ball? Her or a foster care system?
To live. Your environment is not giving you food and clothing. Your environment is lacking. And so
Her foster home wasn't giving her what she needed. That doesn't even make sense to me. Didn't you put her in the foster home? Weren't you checking that shit out?
don't have a trafficker who may hit you with fingers or lock you in a closet. You're having to still survive through the exchange of sex for money. And you know what's worse?
While being in a foster home?
If you were
So the community put her there, but they were not giving her her needs unless she had sex with them. And I don't understand. Whose fault is it, lady? Now that she's 20 with her own little kid, what are they doing for this woman?
considered of having been trafficked, you were a victim. If you engage in survival sex or been environmentally trafficked, you did it on your own. You wanted that.
Yeah, but this story, she started talking about she had a client that was 20 that was in the foster system and blah 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 blah. What are you skipping here, lady?
Life. And it's so unfortunate that the community does not often see the victimization that individuals who engage in that lifestyle go through every day.
Well, what I see is that you are dropping the ball. Care to elaborate?
Went through prior to having to enter that life.
The next piece is gang control. So mostly in our area, that's our Latino population, who is not over the age of 15. And that can be immigrants in gangs, 18th Street Los Locos. So usually the youth think they're actively in a gang. And you may think that they're actively in this gang, but they're actually just being sold and used as a commodity inside the gang. We've been seeing an increase.
Yeah, but here's the thing, lady. This video was made what? Let's take a look. I don't see a date on it. For some reason, I don't see a date. Which is strange. Now, let me just tell you, the name of this channel is called Men Can Stop Rape. Okay? It has a good... It says, Nameless is a documentary that addresses child sex trafficking in Washington, D.C. and at large. Through interviews with experts, advocates, and activists, child sex trafficking is reframed as a form of sexual violence that is often made invisible. Child sex trafficking is explored as an issue with deep historical cultural roots, tackles misperceptions about which populations are most vulnerable to being trafficked and illuminates systematic gaps in the current treatment of trafficking victims. Featuring 15 interviews on the front lines of the issue, Nameless mobilizes viewers to recognize and combat child sex trafficking. Okay. Only 1,904, what is that? 1.94K. 1.94K subscribers. I think they should have more subscribers. I think it's a shame that when people are trying to make a difference in the world, they get such little support. And yet, we also have people on the flip side who say, what's 6 million Jews? We got to the moon. Not just Jews either. 6 million lives. Let's call it 6 million lives. What's 6 million lives? We got to the moon. You see, all these social programs are being cut. You know why? Because of civil suits and wrongful deaths and the qualified immunity doctrine.
Sexual exploitation gangs for many years now. Historically, gangs have used drugs or weapons.
And now we have known for a long time that gangs have been a problem for a long time. But I think what happens is where Backpage isn't held responsible for, allowing people to traffic people sexually in their ads, right? It's not up to them. I mean, if somebody wants to post something or whatever, right? But on the flip side, we talk about sensitive topics such as this, and we get silenced. So they have the technology to silence the ones who want to throw a damper on their party. Is that what it's about?
As a means of business, and they have discovered that selling children and women is more financially lucrative. Where there's one weapon.
Now think about it. See, Tom, though, on the flip side, if he was not aware of people who were like survival, basically, it wasn't even just about drugs, right? It was about eating. Say somebody had ran away from home and it was either depend on this pimp, right? This abusive person. No, Night Owl, no, it's not outlandish. It's not outlandish. It makes more sense now that he would have some enemies there. Because if these people were sending food and they were sending food and stuff like that, that would mean these people wouldn't even need to prostitute to eat. So if somebody had them basically, by the balls, saying everything is on me. You gotta need me for everything. And then here comes Tom Reed, just doing, abandoned buildings, comes across Penny sitting there late at night in the pitch black. And coincidentally, she gets killed over $10. I think he really was doing the abandoned Detroit. I think somebody who constantly says something about a knee to the neck is something.
I have sold one time, a child or a woman sold many times. We had a youth that came from Latin America. Her family had come to the U.S. without her, left her in Latin America. She was incredibly hurt by that. She had a baby.
Think about those kids at the fucking borders. What's going on with them? Nobody knows. Nobody follows up. Look at how I'm searching here, Night Owl, for that Ashley Terniak case. And all it keeps coming up with is that one video. Okay? And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, man. What the fuck? I think she got in that car and it had no... I think there was more than one in that car. And I think it was a Connecticut car. And I think she didn't get in and just take her shoes off. Because she's wearing something that you lace up or is high. Because it's fall, late fall in New England. She's not just slipping off her fucking flip-flops. Now in 98, no, I don't even think in 98 they were the style. You'd have to look and see the style of shoe that would have been common for high schoolers then. And put it out there. Ask if anybody ever found shoes like that somewhere. Those shoes. Look for those shoes. Look for the shoes. That's what I'd say. No, he didn't. He did not, Night Owl. He did not. Well, he did see them when he would be around watching. I mean, I've seen him pick up litter. Now, I'm not saying he's not a creepy guy, but I'm not saying that somebody else isn't just as creepy. There's a couple of creepy ones there.
Shoes as a result. And when they finally were able to bring her to the United States, she had a language barrier and she was angry at the only people she knew, which are her parents. And so she lashed out and she sought that attention and trust in the community. Unfortunately, who she ran into were MS-13 gang members. And they started off as her friends. They recognized she didn't have anybody else to speak to.
Okay, and here's the thing. Let's say they do away with prison tats. You know? Are not most gang symbols made from prison tats? You got nothing to do all day. So somebody sits there and they do the whole process. Now you telling me somebody's got a whole body tattoo practically. All prison tat ink. Okay? And nobody ever saw that going on. No guards, no nothing. Maybe he was, yeah, maybe he was. Sorry. Why, like, how would you be able to even do a prison tat? Wouldn't you need something sharp? If you're gonna say, hey, I want my body tattooed up in gang symbols, right? Gang symbols, and you're due to get out in 5 years, what next? What next? Never wear a short sleeve shirt again? Never take your shirt off again, and so that you're never associated with a gang? No. Basically, then you have to be in one. Well, yeah, I mean, he was a private detective or whatever, private eye, right? I mean, those are stalker people anyway. I mean, you gotta stalk somebody. He's got the stalker tendencies, evidently, obviously, right?
She didn't sit with anybody in school. She didn't have any friends. She didn't seem to want to go home. And they slowly groomed her into being, oh, let me be your boyfriend. Let me be your best friend. And before she knew it, she was being gang raped as an initiation procedure for the gang. And she stayed in that because she truly believed the gang was her only family.
All right, so let's go back to something here. So she says her family came from Mexico, but left her behind. Okay. Why? 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 Her family gets here, they can speak English, but she can't. Finally, she gets here. Now, let me just ask, were they legal to be here? I'm not assuming anything. I'm just starting at the point of the beginning. You know what I'm saying? The beginning is why would they leave their small child there? What's going on in this family? Who did they leave her with? What was going on already? Why? How did they get here? Did they get here legally? Is all that fucking okay? I mean, let's start really at the beginning. I mean, okay, so we've got this trickle down effect that happened, but to nip it in the bud, shouldn't we have to look at every aspect of the situation? Night Owl, I don't know. I really, really think that when somebody constantly refers to the phrase a knee to the neck, it kind of makes it difficult, you know. I'm pretty sure that whomever did, in my opinion, allegedly, whomever did in those first girls that were in order of appearance was thinking they were cutting in on something that somebody else was capitalizing off and exploiting. And this is in my opinion, only in my opinion. But I do think that I'm 9 minutes into this fucking video and it's like I can't even for the life of me think, okay, well, I want to know like more. I want to know more about this family that left their daughter somewhere and then she got caught up in this gang and then gang raped and this and that. Why did she feel that way? Why did they leave her there?
And then she believed at that point that her family would not accept her anymore because she had been tainted by the gang. So the most form that everyone really knows the most of is pimp control. That pimp is a track.
See, that doesn't even make sense. So you got a family that is like knows you so much that they know you were a virgin and then were tainted. And yet they're so negligent that you don't feel like you're part of a family. I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. But he didn't know their last names. He had only met them a month before. He didn't know their real names. It's somebody who had their IDs and knew who they were enough to report it to Reddit and make a timeline of these women. He didn't start that whole, hey, these people I interviewed got killed. He went back and spoke to Angel, and she told him what happened. And he asked her if she was afraid of him, and he said no. And she said, you are not a cop, you're nothing like that. In the beginning ones, he would ask, can I do an interview with you for $10? I mean, he wouldn't let them in his truck. So he knew enough about DNA. The bottom line is somebody says they've got their knee to your neck and keeps wanting their cut. Their cut. Uses an avatar of a person. Anyway, in my opinion.
Trafficker and pimp is one and the same thing. A pimp can be a male or a female who is taking all the money, profiting off of the person, whether they're an adult or a minor.
Now, who was doing that down there, huh? Who was doing that?
Only 12% of victims identified their trafficker as a pimp. The vast majority identify them as a family member, an intimate partner, a romantic interest, a father figure. So, so understanding that statistic goes a
I really think that, yes, hiding in plain sight, still making money off it.
long way to understanding how effective the grooming process is in maintaining the victimization and maintaining your silence. In general, when we think of like pimps or exploiters, we think people who come on really hard, they beat you into submission, and that's how they get your loyalty out of fear.
I mean, either, yeah, they all kind of fit the bill, even secular.
Love is just as much a motivator as fear is. And so most of my clients,
Even secular. They all have a kind of creeper kind of job, you know.
they don't start off being physically or
Right.
otherwise abused by whoever becomes their exploiter. They've been what you termed groomed. So they are building a trusting, loving relationship with somebody, usually somebody older, but it can start off with somebody around their age who's already been exploited themselves and who's then bringing them into. And so this is their friend, or this is their boyfriend, or girlfriend, or whoever, maybe a mentor, a coach. And it's somebody who's shown them what it feels like to be valued, to be loved, and who's told them nobody else understands you like I understand you. Nobody else cares about you like I care.
I mean, he does kind of fit that fucking role, huh? True that, Night Owl. Good point. Good point. Good point right there. True that.
Grooming is a process that allows a trafficker to start very slowly to build a relationship with a child and then escalates that relationship and that access and that control so slowly and gradually.
See, they keep talking about child, but I think if anybody had been traumatized at an early childhood time, they may like still sometimes be regressed to a child or have childlike, you know, thought processes or something, you know. I mean, I don't know. Disclaimer, I do not own the rights to this video that I'm saying. This is all for educational commentary purposes only. And it's a very important topic. I am using it within the Fair Use Act guidelines.
A child might not really notice exactly when it became exploitative, exactly when they no longer felt like it was safe to leave, exactly when it stopped feeling good. And
I mean, if you split the profits, in my opinion, allegedly, of a video that was made of someone that, in my opinion, allegedly, mysteriously, quote unquote, was murdered, and there was some really weird coincidences going on, and you get over 1 million views, and one person is fucking monetized and the other person isn't, it might be a pretty penny to split up monthly for a while there. It might be. Just might be.
And special and started feeling a bit scary or a bit like they didn't have another option. And so traffickers will often invest weeks or months into building relationships with youth, weeks or months into building a sense in that child that
I almost feel like Maddie is for survival.
this person loves me and understands me better than I feel like anyone ever has. And part of that is because the trafficker is not necessarily saying what's true, right? They're saying whatever it is they think that specific child needs to hear to start depending on them and trusting them and feeling safe with them. And then they're looking for ways to control. Example I can use is a young lady. She was walking to her middle school, and for a few months there was a guy who followed her to and from school. She was targeted first, so the person following her knew already.
So did she tell her parents
that she walked to school alone?
And why is that school outfit so short?
Who she lived with already. She's living with her grandparent, which made her a lot more vulnerable than other children who walked to school with other kids or had a bigger support system at home. Throughout the time that she would walk to school,
All right now.
Oh, he would offer her things like gifts. He would offer her a ride to school, anything to make her life easier from the time she left home to the time she arrived at school. After about
Why wasn't she telling her parent? Why weren't the grandparents like warning her?
4, 5, 6 months of this happening, she decided to speak up about what was happening. She didn't necessarily think she was in danger. However, she didn't necessarily understand how that was the first
All right, so she spoke up.
part of being groomed.
In a lot of the cases, it was someone they had met either online.
And then they just skip it. So she spoke up, and then they move on to another story. Then they move to another story.
In person, but then continued the relationship online. So someone who, usually young men, were contacting our clients on various social networking websites.
So if you know that, then do something about it.
Building trust with them to the point where they saw them as a support and as someone to go through in a time of hardship, just long enough that they could then
Do
exploit
not get Wi-Fi in your house. Don't get it. Don't get it. Monitor everything they watch. Utilize your local library. Go to your local library with your child, and they can do their homework there. You can use the computers there. Don't take on another bill that you can't afford. Just don't do it. You'll know what your kid is watching. You know? Watch them together. Have like Lost Weekends, the series Lost. I mean, that was a great one. Chuck, that was good. Try to stay away from the ones with all the sex and shit, you know? Fucking Dawson's Creek, that was great. Dawson's Creek was great.
that trust when the opportunity arose.
It's actually super easy to manipulate children. We do it every day to manipulate kids. We tell them to clean their room, and we give them a lollipop or $1. We manipulate them. It's easy because youth don't think they're being manipulated. They don't think that.
Well, I wouldn't call it manipulating. A different thing when it's coming from a complete stranger, or you're trying to teach them the value of work at home. You know, you're trying to make a parent think that by doing that they're manipulating a kid. I mean,
They know everything. You ever talk to a teenager? You know everything. And that is what traffickers pray.
I think the role in children being vulnerable to being manipulated by traffickers and others is really trying to identify what gaps, what vulnerabilities.
So it goes back to the parents. So let's talk about these parents, huh?
Children may have in terms of their needs being met, whether it be food, shelter, clothing, companionship, and traffickers.
So who dropped the ball? Who drops the ball there? Get to the... See, they keep talking about the child when they know that this started long ago, and the people profiting are adults. They should stop talking about the victims and start focusing on the criminals and changing those laws. That is what they need to do. Like that girl that we were looking into tonight with the Jeffrey Willis guy. And they start talking about her drug use. I mean, that is irrelevant to the case. That's irrelevant. It is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. There's something I want to read, but I don't want to read it on this particular stream because I played, videos of things and I don't know. Alright, I'm searching for something here. I don't know where I can find her. Mm. No, I'm not finding them. I just don't know why I can't find it. I wonder if they took it down. Hmm. Looks like they did. It's fucked up. Hold on. I can't find it on Facebook. Oh well. Sucks. No, nothing. Hmm. Oh well. All right, guys. I'm tired anyway. Peace, love, and tacos.